Governments around the world have put major travel restrictions in place over the spread of Covid-19. In March, the US State Department issued a Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory, the highest the agency can issue, urging Americans to avoid any global travel. In the same week, the EU implemented a 30-day ban on non-essential travel to at least 26 European countries from the rest of the world. The Pew Research Center reports that at least 93% of the world's population now lives in countries with coronavirus-related travel restrictions, with approximately 3 billion people living in countries enforcing complete border closures to foreigners. Some of the bans have left many travelers stranded in foreign countries or even at airports. The US Treasury Secretary has said that it's too hard to tell if the US would ease travel restrictions at all this year, that are mainly affecting Europe and Asia, even as restrictions are starting to be loosened domestically. So how is all of this affecting the global travel industry? At the end of 2019, the global tourism industry had hit a record year for travel. But now, just a few months later, it could take even years for the industry to recover from all of its losses. Data and consulting firm Tourism Economics says that global travel demand likely won't return to its normal pace until the year 2023. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, the sector is estimated to lose 100 million jobs in 2020, overwhelmingly impacting countries in Asia, which would lead to an estimated $2.7 trillion decline in the world's travel and tourism GDP. And the International Air Transport Association has projected that passenger revenue for airlines will plunge by $314 billion this year, a 55% drop from 2019. The average number of commercial flights per day dropped from more than 100,000 in January and February this year to around 29,400 by April, according to Flight Radar 24. The pandemic has affected the entire travel industry, including hotels, airlines, cruise lines, tourism destinations, and online travel agencies. In March, the World Health Organization put out a joint statement with the International Civil Aviation Organization, stating that it advised countries to institute public health measures proportionate to the public health risks and consistent with international health regulations, underlining the importance of travelers' awareness in preventing the transmission of COVID-19. It also mentioned developing extensive guidelines, toolkits, and response plans to support governments, passengers, and the aviation industry in mitigating risks. Sectors of the industry are now starting to prepare for a post-COVID world of travel. Germany's travel sector is projecting losses of $11.8 billion in revenue by mid-June. So, Germany's tourism commissioner has suggested a possible aid fund for the sector, and is pushing for businesses to be allowed to issue vouchers instead of refunds for cancelled trips under EU regulations. And on May 4th, the US Travel Association put out a guide called Travel in the New Normal. The group is planning to implement enhanced cleaning, social distancing, and touchless payment procedures for hotels, airlines, airports, theme parks, restaurants, and cruise lines. The guide also tells travel businesses to modify employment practices and redesign public areas to help protect staff and customers. It says that it's an attempt to revive an industry that's been losing about $18 billion a week since March, when the coronavirus began to spread across the US. The Miami Herald reports that after 9/11, the travel industry shifted its attention to security, and travelers became accustomed to stricter airport screenings. Now there will be a strong focus on health and reducing the spread of infection. And according to Oxford Economics, the impact of COVID-19 on the US travel industry is expected to be 9 times that of 9/11. Recently, the largest US airlines announced that passengers will now be required to wear facial coverings on US flights. Many airports have begun setting up hand sanitizer dispensers for customers. The New York Times states that some airlines are urging customers to check in over the phone instead of using self-service kiosks at the airport. And passengers may also just be asked to show their identification to agents, rather than handing them over. Some airlines have even stopped allowing for finger scans used for entry into their lounges. And travelers may be told to leave their keys and wallets in the pockets of their carry-on bags, instead of placing them into the bins. Passengers needing pat-downs during security checks can now ask TSA agents to change their gloves first. Some airlines are also no longer handing out warm towels to passengers. Meanwhile, Australia and New Zealand are discussing plans for a quarantine-free travel zone between the two countries, given that both have shown strong records for containing the virus. At the moment, both countries require a 14-day mandatory quarantine on international arrivals. So, is the world ready to embrace a new normal?